everybody, and welcome to another episode of Wellness Blueprints. I'm Jess Milner. I'm so glad you're here to nourish your roots with me. And today I'm going to have my quantum energy healer hat on and a little bit of my sciencey hat on too. But we're going to talk about opening our hearts. It's February. It's Heart Month. So of course we have Valentine's Day, which I know that not everybody loves it, but it's always been my most favorite holiday. I guess I just like red sparkly hearts. I don't know, but I've always really liked it ever since I was little. But this month, you see a lot of different holistic practitioners talking about different ways to support the heart. And there are lots of different ways. And I think I probably will get into that later on in the month on another episode. But I wanted to talk about the importance of opening up our heart center, our heart chakra, which is really our emotional center. So when we think about those seven chakras, like the major ones, there's actually lots of energy. So, it's wheels of energy inside of us. There's lots of them, but there's the seven that we know of, going from the root up to the crown chakra. And your heart center is the middle. It is the bridge between the bottom three and the top three. So it's like you're the center of your centers, if you will, and that bridge to that higher and lower. So as many of you know, I have been a certified practitioner for emotion code and body code for several years. So I have been working with things like this for many, many years. And in emotion code, there's something, and of course, we talk about these kinds of things in all different kinds of energy work avenues and realms, But in emotion code, body code, there's something that might be called a heart wall. That's something that Dr. Brad definitely mentioned even during the training and everything. That there are heart walls, where it's like layers of emotions and different energies that are just surrounding your heart, kind of forming a wall there. And these can be applied elsewhere. I mean, there can be, like a financial wall, a health wall. You can form walls around a lot of things, but the most common one, of course, is going to be your heart center. So, we would look, I have released many heart wall and they can be made of all kinds of different things, so sometimes they're made of like really thick wood or heavy steel, sometimes, and this is just kind of like the energetic aspects of it and how your inside, how your essence is kind of viewing it, if you will. So it's not necessarily something that you would think of, but it's just kind of, more of how like your subconscious is viewing this thing. I've had them be, like I said, like heavy wood or like stainless steel, something like that, be miles or inches thick, sometimes being made out of like, comfy fleece blankets and things like that. So it all kind of depends on the person. But what really is going on when you have a wall like this is, something happened that was harmful. It was hurtful. And in an attempt to protect yourself from being hurt again in this way, you form this wall. And then the problem with that is that, even though it was there to protect you, the problem is that is then making it difficult for you to give and receive love properly. And these are things that love is something that is absolutely essential to life. Love and joy, those things are part of our lives that are just, they need to be here. Now, unfortunately, things like, the opposite of this joy and love and what really lives in the heart center in terms of negative emotions, things like grief. Okay. It's part of our human experience here. So it's not like we're going to release this heart wall and then we're never going to feel grief again. No, that's not at all what we're talking about. All of these emotions serve a purpose. Every emotion that we ever feel serves a purpose. But sometimes they serve a purpose that becomes too purposeful and then gets in the way, if that makes sense. Okay. So sometimes we have different, and it may or may not be a wall, but this time of year, I always like to emphasize the importance of your heart and your heart center. So we want to be able to open up this chakra so that we're able to give and receive love better. But not just that, this also is going to play a role in relationships, not just lover relationships, mind you. Okay. We can have issues and sabotage relationships with friends, with coworkers, with family members. I mean, the list can go on. It's not just, like a love relationship, like a romantic relationship, rather, that you would necessarily feel that, that you are sabotaging. So sometimes we don't always notice that, and, like, what is it that we are doing that's, making like all of these things just not work out the way that we had hoped. We also get things, physical symptoms will come through, and that's going to be, feelings of depression, general sadness, and things like that. And of course, frequent infections are also going to be part of that. And if you've ever experienced a long period of grief, or someone who did, and then they ended up with an illness, or maybe a chronic illness or something like that, I think we might all know somebody like that. I mean, it happened to me when I was pregnant with my twins. Some things went down, and I'm not going to share the details of what exactly happened, but basically, I ended up having my girls 6 weeks early, and the 3 weeks prior to that, there were some very eventful events that sent me into a grief period, and I was crying for about 3 weeks straight. I was very it was a very, very difficult time. And so, I developed a cold. I mean, could hardly breathe. I was coughing so much. I remember when I went into labor early, my water broke early, and my dad was like, maybe he's like, you must have, or maybe it was my mom. I don't remember. One of them was like, oh my gosh, like, you coughed your water broken because you were having such coughing fits. Which of course, like, my OB was like, no, that's not what that. No, that's not possible. But nevertheless, like, I remember being like, actually, like, I had like a horrible cold. And once I had my girls, I remember, like, when I was calling people, I had no voice. I was like, I had two baby girls, like, I had no voice at all. So, I mean, I was sick, and then, had the babies early too. So, when you experience grief like this, it definitely manifests in different ways throughout your body, throughout your life. So, like, physical and emotional, it's going to do that. So, those would be some signs that, you have something going on in those areas. And of course, it's not always, that extreme, I mean, maybe you are going through a difficult time, or that you did in the past, and you feel like maybe what was going on in the past is still playing a role now. Maybe you're still getting some chronic infections, and you're like, well, what's going on with that? Why is that connected there? Maybe you deep down have this, like, kind of feeling like a self-worth is not really there. Like, you're not supposed to be happy. You're fearing that you're vulnerable all the time. And maybe you had, like, past hurts, like love that was unreceived or something like that. I think we've all kind of experienced stuff like that. So these are very normal things for a human being to feel. But when these things can get clogged up in here, it can start to cause issues with your general energetic flow in your body. And like I've said many, 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 many times, and I will continue to say, your morphogenetic fields, that is your vital body, your bliss body, your spirit body, holds the blueprints for your physical body. So when there are things going on that are not so great with that area, then it's going to manifest in other ways as well. So your heart center is actually your heart chakra is very connected to your thymus, which is it is located right behind that area in your chest. And the thymus gland is it's actually a very important spot for your immune system. It's where we're going to be making T cells and stuff like that. It's very, very important for your immune system. So if you've ever heard the saying, laughter is the best medicine, laughter, that joy, is pretty much the opposite of grief. And it's very interesting because studies have been done showing that there is an increased activity of producing T cells and an increased level of immunity. Your immune system does better in the thymus when laughter is added in. So this is definitely something that is really, really, so there you have it. Like, there's a little bit of science that actually goes into there. And of course, everything that I'm talking about is science. It's quantum science. So it's breaking everything down into a much smaller thing. And when you break it all the way down, I mean, oh my gosh, it'll blow your mind. That's what it'll do. But yes, so when you are experiencing more laughter and that's opening up that heart center, your thymus is doing a better job of keeping you from getting ill. I know I had a friend years ago. She was planning. I think she was planning her daughter's wedding. So it was just a very very uh, stressful time. I know, when I was planning my wedding, it was a super stressful time too, so getting that together and everything, which, so she was, not sleeping very much, doing this, that, and the other thing, like, go, 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 let me get all of this done. And then once the wedding happened, and, like she had a couple days after the wedding, and then her body was just like, bam, crashed. And she had like one of the worst like flus, colds that she'd had in many, many years. And, and it was just like all of that going on and, all of that stress and everything. And then the body finally let it go and she was sick. So absolutely laughter is a wonderful medicine for that, because like I'm saying, this grief, these types of feelings that are often originated in this area will often, pretty much always, lead to some sort of an illness. And sometimes it's a chronic illness, and sometimes it's an acute illness. So hopefully it was an acute illness, but this can lead to bigger things too, of course. And you may know somebody in your head there. Okay, so this emotional center. So when I would seek to open that heart chakra or go after a heart wall, that's literally what I would do. I would say I am intending to find emotions and other energies, because maybe we're doing body code, that are contributing to this issue in this heart center here, and go ahead and open that up, so that these feelings can get moved out, because we have to feel the feelings that we feel. But a lot of the time, most of the time, especially when they're negative, they kind of get pushed down. It's sort of like, okay, I can't deal with this right now. Similar to like, when you're like at the store and your kid has like the biggest attitude ever, and like you really just want to say the things that you need to say, like, and parent, and you're just kind of thinking to yourself, I'm going to have to do this later because I don't want to cause a scene in the store, like that sort of thing. We do that with our emotions. And then a lot of the time it just doesn't get fully processed. And then that's when it's hanging out there and it's causing a traffic jam. Okay. So if you have like, if you're wondering what kinds of signs and symptoms there are, I mean, we've talked about things like, having like chronic infections or, illnesses. Like, do you get sick, whenever something is going around, do you like always get it? Do you have like a general sadness, feelings of depression? Not necessarily like a clinical diagnosis of depression, because you can feel feelings of depression. There is an emotion of depression, which is not the same thing as the clinical diagnosis. It's the same thing with anxiety. And I think I've mentioned that before as well. And I said something about sabotaging relationships. And another thing, if you are feeling very attracted to the color green, or if you feel, that green is a color for the heart center. If you've been having dreams that you seem to remember touching things, you remember how something felt, you remember, the texture of, like a blanket or a car door, anything that you were touching in your dream, and you actually remember that sensation of touch, then that's telling you that there's something that is your higher emotional, your higher intellectual center, rather, that is telling your lower centers, trying to get a message to you, kind of, like from the attic to the basement. And it's talking about something specifically in that energy center that could be addressed for better health or better clarity, understanding, whatever it is that you might be seeking. So, this center, like I said, being the bridge, it actually does build on the lower centers there. So those, I mean, they're a kind of, they're kind of like it's like a ladder. So they're all there, and it kind of builds on the other one. So the lower centers is where you're going to have lots of fear and guilt, shame, worry, anxiety. Those kinds of things are going to be in a bit of lower centers. And then those are going to, they're going to roll in with this grief and with this feeling of low self-worth, and this feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be happy. Like there's all this stuff going on. So I'm not supposed to be happy. So I can just sit over here and justify my sadness. So let's see, what are some emotions that I pull out of there a lot of the time, out of that heart center? Obviously, grief is going to be one of them. And also things like abandonment and vulnerability and that feeling of love unreceived, maybe a feeling of insecurity, that low self-worth or low self-esteem, feeling that you're, just, yeah, like it's like a low, it's kind of, it can kind of go in with self-pity, and a feeling of unworthiness is going to go in there as well, and that can be tied in with shame also. I mean, these kind of core emotions here do kind of filter out, and then you have like these other emotions that can connect to a couple of the different ones, if that makes sense. But also, things like heartache. Obviously, if you've got heartache, you've been through a lot of grief, those kinds of things are going to be in that area most likely. So when I go through and open up these centers, people notice like, okay, well, suddenly I was able to talk to that person, or suddenly I, felt like I was able to touch, like I didn't, have you ever kind of felt like totally touched out, and at the end of the day, and your kids want a hug and you're just like, oh my gosh, don't even touch me, because you're just like so touched out? That can be a sign that there is something going on in that heart center, because that is a center of touch. So you might notice that you are like, oh, actually feeling good giving somebody a hug, pulling in some of their energy and that feeling of human touch. That is actually quite necessary. We are social beings. We're supposed to be around other people. So, I'm sure you've seen lots of different things on that, being completely isolated from other humans never goes well for the person who's isolated. So, people will notice that they're able to, it's not that grief goes away, because that's not what happens. But, and I would never, tell somebody that, oh, you're going to feel so much better, and like the grief that you're feeling is going to go away immediately after. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's, and I mean, it really would depend on the person and how long you've been feeling the grief. And what it's going to help you do is to just be able to deal with that, transform that, reframe that grief in a way so that it's easier for you to navigate, because it's not going to go away, but it does need to be reframed in a way so that it is not detrimental to your health, both your spiritual health, well, all your spiritual, your mental, because of your mind as well, and then your physical health. So, and I'm going to say this because I can do this all the time, but because it is February, I want to let everyone know that I can absolutely do a heart chakra, heart opening emotion code or body code. It doesn't cost any extra. It's the same cost as any other emotion or body code session would be. Okay. So when you go ahead to sign up, you're going to go to deeprootedwellnessid.com, and in the drop down menu, you're going to see the emotion code and body codes. You can buy a 3-pack or a 6-pack of either one, or just a single session. And when you put in, your reasons for, there's a bit of a questionnaire there, because I want to know a little bit about you. And you can just put in there that you really want to open up your heart center, that's what you want to do. You're taking advantage of this. So I encourage you to go and get on my schedule. And I will open up other times available to accommodate everyone, because I want to make sure that everybody who wants to get in on this can. And I will focus on that heart center. Sometimes one session is great. Most of the time, most people do find it best if they at least do a 3-pack and see what's going on after that. It really depends on what your goal is. And what your situation is. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to just book a call, or you can send me an email. Just send me an email to hello@deeprootedwellnessid.com, and I'll get back to you. We can have a little chat about it, okay? And just figure out what the best route's going to be for you in terms of what, how many sessions you'd like to have. Mm-hmm. And it's really up to you if you would like to do the emotion code, where we just focus on emotions, or if you want to do the full body code, where emotions will be factored into there, absolutely, but it will also go into different circuits and systems of the body, misalignments, can go specifically into meridians and different energies of pathogens and toxins, and gets a little bit deeper into some of the emotional, energetic imbalances that can be happening inside of us that are not, that emotions are tied to, because it encompasses all of that, but it's a little bit deeper than that. So I am completely happy to give a chit chat about that at all, because this is just such a wonderful thing to just be able to open up our heart, to give and receive love better, and just to be able to improve our all around health and happiness, because joy is absolutely a nutrient. Okay, joy is a nutrient, and we need to be nourishing ourselves with joy. And sometimes that can be a challenge. And this is one of the many ways that that can start to become a little bit easier for you so that you can experience that joy. Okay. So happy February, everyone. Happy Heart Month. Thank you so much for stopping by today. And I hope that you come back next week. Okay. Bye for now.